What is up, FTN? It is Wednesday. We have a 13-game slate, so not a ton of time for the pleasantries. But this is the Dream Stream, presented to you by Super Draft Daily Fantasy, as it is every day here at FTN. No Fast Eddie Fear tonight, out with a non-COVID illness. So happy to report that he's avoided the COVID, but definitely, I talked with him this morning. Not doing great. So the plan right now is to have him on tomorrow night, but it's nice to have a good friend on the couch because Stefano Vaccarino jumping in for the second time in 4 days. Steph, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to fill in for Eddie. Eddie is expected to be back tomorrow. I'm coming in at 4,100, expected to play like 37-ish minutes. I can score. I don't play much defense, but I get James Harden like steals, so I'm excited to get this going. Pumped to talk about this 13-game slate. 13 games is a lot, right? That's usually like Thanksgiving. What's like, when's there usually 13-game slates? It's like Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, right? Is it Christmas Eve?
I'd say the 23rd, I think, because I think Eve is usually like not a lot of games. Right before the All-Star break, right? Last day of the season. Yeah.
It's rare to have 13 games like at this point of the season, I feel like. This is like not normal. But anyway.
I like Dello chiming in, fresh off his FTN NBA podcast appearance last night, saying that you're literally a Coro right now with your price and status. So
I'm not a Fitbit guy though.
You're right. You produce.
I produce. I won't play many minutes and I won't run too hard, but I will produce. So
yeah, and don't leave Steph open. I've seen the jumper. It is wet. Let's start.
Industry, by the way, this is good.
So David and Javi were on. The joking about the Morris brothers and Jokic aside, those guys, as always, did a great job breaking it down game by game on this monster slate here. So I think you and I can kind of jump around where we see fit, where there's value, injury news, et cetera, and then of course near the end, be guided by the subs in the FTN Discord. So I think, speaking of Isaac Okoro, did get some news that I was griping to you about in the green room. Obviously, Colin Sexton out for this team. Lauri Markkanen and Kevin Love remain out for the Cavs. We were expecting a Ricky Rubio start, at least I was. He was up at a 10 in the rankings, and he is coming off the bench. So Coach Baker's staff electing to keep his second unit intact. They will start Darius Garland, the aforementioned Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. So a slight downtick for me. I think Rubio's going to end up at a 9. Still a very strong play. If you'll notice, there's, even for a 13-game slate in the ranks, not a lot of 10s given out today. Just to, I think, kind of illustrate the few plays that I think are standing out above the rest of this massive field. But Steph, Okoro starting over Rubio, Garland with no Sexton, short-handed front court still. How are you attacking the Cavs?
So, first off, let's start with Rubio, right? I don't think anything changes with Ricky Rubio. I think that coaches do this now, right? They want to keep their second unit intact, so to speak, right? And we kind of care about those closing minutes more so than those starting minutes. So Rubio coming off the bench, is that a little concerning? Sure, right? It's not the greatest thing, but it's also I think mostly irrelevant. Where I think we'll see Dean Wade instead of playing Dean Wade 28 minutes because Okoro is back, right? So the initial instinct is okay, Okoro's back. He'll probably play around 30 minutes because he always does. And Rubio's coming off the bench. Does that mean Rubio's not going to play around 30 minutes? And I think the answer is no. Rubio's going to play 30 minutes. Dean Wade will probably play 20 minutes instead of 28 minutes. Dylan Windler will probably play 0 minutes or 5 minutes instead of 18 minutes. And Rubio will be right around 27 to 32 minutes. And at 5,200, that is perfectly fine for Ricky Rubio. This Wizards team is better defensively. This is the same Wizards team as we got the past couple of years where they were just attack the Wizards in DFS. But they're still nothing exceptional, right? And at this price point on a 13-game slate, and considering the fact that now the recent news is that Rubio is coming off the bench, there's a decent chance that Ricky Rubio is now under-owned.
Sure.
So I like Rubio slightly more now. This does help Darius Garland, I think, because there will be about 12 minutes in the start of each half where Darius Garland is going to be that that primary ball handler without any competition. So it's a bump to get Darius Garland. I think it's irrelevant. Irrelevant is the wrong word. I don't think it has much of an impact on Ricky Rubio. I think Okoro is a usable punt, but on a 13-game slate, is there really a ceiling there? Do we want to go to Isaac Okoro? Probably not. And then there's Jared Allen, who at 7,500 on DraftKings is still way too cheap. If this game stays close, he's going to play close to 40 minutes. He's over a fantasy point per minute producer historically. It's a decent matchup. Jared Allen at 7,500 is just a great play. On the Wizards side, I don't know. Again, it's a 13-game slate, so correlation is less important in my opinion. I don't mind Bradley Beal, but there's no one on Washington that I'm desperate to play. Where, in my opinion, the key guys, I know we're not going game by game, but it's important to know because I'm talking about Rubio, Garland, and Allen. I'm not saying play all three of them together, but I think it's fine to play 2 to 3 in the same lineup. Don't feel obligated to play any other Wizards in a run back. It's not really necessary on a 13-game slate.
Yeah, I don't disagree too much from anything you said there. Jared Allen, double tens for me on DraftKings and Super Draft. I mean, I just don't see how you get away from playing that guy at 7.5. I think the price is going to keep some people away, and I think that's a little foolish. His minutes floor right here is about 35, and we've seen the upside for 40 minutes out of Jared Allen here. So, yeah, he's a smash play. I agree that Ricky Rubio still looks really nice. I guess what I was expecting was Okoro coming off that lengthy absence with the hamstring. I thought would come off the bench to start. And so I thought Rubio's minute ceiling was a little higher than I consider it now. Still, obviously, a very strong play. And on that Washington side, I think I need to come down a little bit. I gave a 9 to Daniel Gafford. I still think he's a strong play. It's kind of tough to get to him because he's only center eligible, and I want to have Jarrett Allen in one of the center utility spots on DK tonight. But going up against this Cleveland team with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen out there for 35-plus minutes each, you're going to need Trez Harrell. You're going to need Daniel Gafford. And Daniel Gafford at 4.7 looks like a really nice play to me. So I think he would be my favorite spot to go on the Wizards, followed by Bradley Beal, as you mentioned. It's interesting. The slate as a whole, we talked before, and we've been talking in Discord kind of back and forth all day. The balanced lineup to me looks really strong. You're going to be able to spend up for essentially whoever you want tonight because of some of the value that's already opened up, specifically in the Denver game with MPJ out with a back, Jokic on the suspension. But I don't necessarily think we have to go stars and scrubs tonight. I think there's a lot of upside to be had getting some of these 8K, 7K, 6K guys and stacking 3 or 4 of those, maybe even 5 if you run that Denver value up, and Jared Allen is one of those guys I want to prioritize tonight.
I think this is a good talking point, Zach. In that 7 to 8K range, just that $1,000 range, there's at least 3 players who are really, really underpriced. And that's Jared Allen, that is Zach Levine, and the other one is Malcolm Brogdon.
Yes,
if he ends up playing. I'll let you kind of talk about Brogdon because I know you have a nice rating on him.
Sure, yeah, and let's just go ahead and jump into that game as a whole. Pacers at Denver. Obviously, we mentioned the shorthanded Denver team, and kind of a shorthanded Pacers team now with Karis LeVert ruled out due to soreness in his back. So I mean, you've got Sabonis at 10-2. I think he's fine. He's certainly not what I would prioritize if I'm going to spend 5 figures on a guy tonight on DraftKings. But with LeVert out, his upside is a little bit higher. Miles Turner's price has come up. More of a stronger play on Super Draft where I think he's 1.45x and carries the forward eligibility. But as you kind of alluded to, Malcolm Brogdon, my favorite target by far here, was a non-COVID illness for him, not a back or a knee or a hamstring or all of the various injuries that Brogdon has taken on. I guess I should include shoulder in that. All his injuries over the last 18 months or so. At 7.5 against this beat up Denver team, we should see 35-36 minutes with upside for more. I love Brogdon tonight. So anything to add on that? Are you getting into a Chris Duarte? You have more love for Sabonis? And then talk to me about the Denver guys.
So I know you queued me up right there. I went on mute for a second because there was a helicopter going directly over my house, and
always looking for you.
I know, appreciate it. So yeah, on Brogdon, like you said, the minutes, I think 35 is low compared to we have to assume that he's not going to have his minutes restricted, right? Because like you said, it's not a muscle, it's like a soft tissue issue or a bone injury or anything like that. He was sick, was non-COVID. We haven't heard anything like that. He was like severely sick. And like you look at those minutes kind of early in the season, right? 40, 44, 41, 37, played 36 against the Knicks on November 3rd. So like I think 36 sounds right, but like that's like kind of a floor. That's like a minutes floor for Brogdon. And at 7,500, in what should be a faster paced game without Jokic, just like he's cheap. That's it. He's averaging, like, this is like bad analysis, but like just in its simplest form, right? He's averaging 44 DK points per game, and he's priced at 7,500. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually there's not that much of a discrepancy, and obviously there's a lot more in DFS than that. But that's just like he's underpriced. On the Denver side, like I think we have to start with Will Barton and Aaron Gordon. Those are the two. I think those are my two favorite plays that stand out for the Nuggets. They kind of make the most sense too. I think we do see more of a bit more of like that point forward Aaron Gordon we saw late in Orlando as like they were trying to trade him, where he's going to be more of a facilitator, more of a primary ball handler. And at 5,200, I get it. Like Aaron Gordon on this Nuggets team has not been a good fantasy producer. This isn't the normal Nuggets team, right? There is a massive amount of usage that's gone. Him and Will Barton, I do think, soak up the usage. That said, if we get a funky starting lineup, and I think there's a chance we get a funky starting lineup, and that could involve your guy, Mr. Bones Highland. If that happens, I'm less on Aaron Gordon, just because Bones is a high usage guy, right? And then my priority would become Bones on the Nuggets, hands down. Will Barton is just really easy to play with guard forward eligibility, priced well. If this game stays close, Will Barton is going to hit value. It's kind of that simple, in my opinion. He is the option A on offense. He's someone who likes to get his stats up. He likes to chase down rebounds. He'll have the ball a ton. So, Will Barton on a 13-game slate, right? He'll be chalk, right? But like it's tough to be really chalky on a 13-game slate. So love Will to throw. I'm curious. Do you think the Nuggets are going to have like a strange starting lineup? Because like I wouldn't put it past Mike Malone.
I mean, I think right now I would say it's going to be Monte Morris, Will Barton, Aaron Gordon. I would say Jeff Green, JaMychal Green, but honestly, that doesn't leave much room for rotate. Like you're going to have to pull one of those greens pretty quickly to back up the other one. So maybe we see Jeff Green get the start. Maybe JaMychal Green comes off the bench and you slide PJ Dozier into that lineup, something like that. But I agree. I think it's something right now that nobody can say with certainty who the five are going to be. But regardless of that, I think you're pretty much spot on with this team. Like if this game stays close, and I was kind of surprised to see that it's only a 3-point spread, on the road here. Ton of strong plays like Will Barton, Aaron Gordon. I agree. If Bones got into that starting five, that would take Aaron Gordon down a notch for me.
He's also regardless, honestly. If you're playing 150 lineups, I want some Bones exposure. I mean, honestly, the Pacers are a great game environment for the Nuggets, right? Like they play fast, they don't play much defense, and like again, bad analysis here, but I'm kind of okay with any Nuggets that you land on. Really, that includes Jeff Green, that includes JaMychal Green. It depends on the starting lineup, but there's minutes and usage to go around. Like there's a ton. Like Jokic is a massive piece of this offense, right? I'm stating the obvious, but like really want to hammer home that point. Without Nikola Jokic, the ball, the usage still has to go somewhere. Like it doesn't just disappear. And it probably will get spread out, and everyone's cheap enough where even if it gets spread out evenly, they'll probably get there, assuming this game stays close enough.
Yeah, I think the thing for me about Bones is that if this game does blow out, I think he's the one that's also staying in with that second/third unit that gets the blowout run. So outside of those two bigs, both Greens, Jeff and JaMychal, Bones would probably be my third favorite guy there that's under, Monte Morris at 4-4 on DraftKings. I mean, all these guys are strong, like you said, until we get the starting five. Then I think we can revisit. And at that point, it's going to be in the Discord, probably around 8 Eastern when we get that lineup. So we can go ahead and move on and let's talk.
We just got some news, by the way. Ingram ruled out.
Yeah, and Herb Jones remains a game time decision. I believe he did tell reporters at media availability that he would play tonight, but still waiting on confirmation from the team that will be the case. The Raptors will start Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam at the 5. So let's touch on that for a second. I don't think that this Toronto side has a ton of priorities. Pascal got 25 minutes in his return. Have you seen anything about his minutes load tonight?
No, I think so historically Nick Nurse has gone like it's taking 3 games for his guys to get to that full minutes load, unless it's Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet, where they'll just play him 44 minutes in that first game out of nowhere. I think Siakam's going to be somewhere anywhere between 25 and 30. Not enough at his price tag on a 13-game slate. I think the only person who I'm interested in on Toronto would be Fred VanVleet, just because he's one of those 7K, those high 7K price guys that should be like 8K. Just because he's going to play 38 minutes, he's a good fantasy producer. This Boston defense isn't anything amazing. So Fred VanVleet really the only person on Toronto that I'm kind of considering on this on the size of a slate.
I would have some Precious Achiuwa interest if I was building multiple lineups tonight. Kim Birch is going to be out for multiple games here. Obviously, Pascal back at the 5, but I think this, like we've seen Chris Boucher, is kind of pushed out of this rotation almost entirely at this point. And Precious in the Raptors' last game Sunday afternoon against the Nets, Precious got 27 minutes. Is that right? I thought it was low 20s and I had interest. Yeah, 27 off the bench. And that wasn't, even though that game ended up getting, to double digits by the end, he didn't play any sort of blowout run. So he might be getting a little tick up from me. Precious Achiuwa, if he's going to get into the upper 20s in minutes at 4-1, I have some interest there. So I agree Fred VanVleet and Precious would be my 2 targets from that team. But on the other side of this game, we've got Jaylen Brown out with that hamstring injury, missing 1 to 2 weeks for the Celtics. So you've got Jason Tatum at 10-4 with no Jaylen Brown. I think he is probably one of the guys. Like, it's a tough matchup. You got Scotty Barnes, you got OG, you got Pascal. All of those guys are going to spend significant time on Jason Tatum while he's out there. But for me, it's kind of just a volume play. We know that Tatum can get, maybe to 30 shots. I would be surprised if he took less than 24 or 25 in this spot. So at 10-4, you're saving a little bit of salary off some of those guys. You've got Giannis up to that 12-3 range today. They're really extending the salaries on this large slate. So I think that's probably my priority, or my favorite play, I should say, from Boston. And then after that, it's probably Dennis Schroeder, but he's not a priority for me by any means.
I actually like Schroeder at 6,100. Do you think he's going to play high 30s a minute? Or do you think it's going to kind of go down back to like the 34-ish range? Because if it's like 37,
I think it's mid 30s.
Okay,
I think fine play.
Yeah, I think he's really safe, right? Like, we've seen upside, we've seen ceiling with Schroeder in the past. We haven't seen a ton of ceiling at his current price this year. But I think there's a ceiling there. I like the minutes. I think the price is totally fine. He enters that like Ricky Rubio, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Dennis Schroeder kind of conversation, right? Those 5 to like 6.5K guards. You can even throw in Will Barton there, but Will Barton's more of a priority in my opinion. But I think that's actually not a bad segue. I'm sorry to kind of steal the steering wheel, but
keep it rolling.
I want to hear your thoughts on Detroit and Houston, because this is a sort of like bad basketball that I usually love to target in DFS. And I think I really like Cade Cunningham at 5,200. I think I really like Jalen Green. I like Daniel Tice with Sengun out. I like Christian Wood at 9,100. I'm curious your thoughts on this game. Do I like this game too much? Because it's not like the greatest game environment, and it's a 13-game slate.
No, this jogged my memory that I need to go adjust Houston ranks for Sengun being out. Daniel Tice is going to get a tick up. I don't think he's going to be like a 9 for me at least now. 3-7 forward eligible. Not having to take up a center spot with him is really nice. Christian Wood priced up 9-2. I don't have, revenge game, yada yada. I don't have a ton of interest in him at 9-2 on this slate. I kind of wished KPJ was out, because then I was going to push more chips onto Jalen Green. I do still think he's a fine play. We were talking kind of back and forth while David and Javi were on the show about Jalen Green's comments on draft night about Detroit passing over him. The success he did have, albeit in a summer league game. He was very aggressive against the Pistons summer league squad. different story in the, actual NBA here, but at 5'3", I think he's a fine play. Definitely more interested in Daniel Tice. Jayshawn Tate looks pretty nice at 5'1". And I was gonna like Eric Gordon a lot too if KPJ was out. And then I love Cade Cunningham at 5'2". To me, he's still a smash play. Like, he's at least 1,000 too cheap, if not a little more. If he's gonna play 30 to 32 minutes,
17 shots, like if he
makes some shots and he smashes.
Yeah, like even last game, right? Like, he didn't hit his peripherals like he probably will in this sort of game environment. And he went 6 or 17, 25 and a half DK points at 5,200. Like, you're not thrilled with that performance, but you're not dead, right? Like, you're still so that's kind of like, I feel that as this floor. And like, Houston plays fast. Isn't like they've been better defensively than I think they actually are. So yeah, I actually like Cade more than Rubio, but I really like both Cade and Rubio. I'm curious, like, how owned do you think Cade gets? Like, do you think this is like the sentiment of, like, around like the industry right now that's like Cade is still too cheap, or people are like, oh, he's like not playing crazy high minutes and the price is slightly up. Maybe like I'll go elsewhere.
My feeling is that people are still in tune with the fact that he's too cheap, but it's nowhere near what it was, when he was low 4Ks, and certainly with that debut game when he was 3.6. Obviously, he didn't come through, but the process on Cade here to me is play a lot of him. On the 13-game slate, I would be surprised if he gets over 20, over 25% would really surprise me. And I think it'll probably end up in the 20-ish range. And I would be, if I was building out 20 lineups tonight, Steph, I would be at least double that, probably a little bit more. I love him in this matchup. And I don't think he's not the only person you can target on this team too. Like, Isaiah Stewart's down to 4 or 5. He hasn't.
He's gonna smash at some point. It's gonna happen
at some point. I don't know if it's
today, but
my best ball lineups are waiting for it. Trust me. And then you've got Kelly O at 5'8", could be like sneaky, but I don't think you have to go there on this slate. I'm sure on DraftKings there's a little 7:30 Eastern 3-game turbo slate. I would have some interest in Kelly O there, and Jeremy Grant at 7.2. It's just tough to get there because of all the other options that we talked about, 10, 15 minutes ago in that 7K range, but not the craziest play either. But it's really Cade and Tice for me from that game as priorities.
I agree. We actually just had a question, thoughts on Tice with Alperin out. Just checked in, so I'm answering that really quickly.
And we also got a question about KJ Martin. I can't go there. I mean, we had last game where they were supposed to play the young guys, right? And KJ had 5 minutes going into the fourth quarter. So I don't really know where he stands. Is he a veteran? Is he a young guy? Like what? I don't think I can play a guy who could play 14 minutes tonight there's just so many better options. Like, you're going to get all the both Jeff Green and JaMychal Green are going to play like 30 plus minutes at the same price. So it's really tough for me to get to KJ, especially when I want to get Tice, same power forward position for only 400 more. But maybe if there's a showdown.
Should we try and rank those 3K power forward / centers? Like, it's hard to do, but like if you had to pick between Jeff Green, JaMychal Green, and Daniel Tice, who's the person you are prioritizing? Right, like gun to your head, you have to pick one. I know that's not how it works, but
I think I'm going J-Mike. And then it's very close between Jeff Green and Daniel Tice for me. I prefer Daniel Tice from the production standpoint. But I think there's a way that he kind of, doesn't get to that. We've only seen 30 minutes out of him once this season. He got to 29 against Dallas back on October 26th. But I think I'm going to go JaMychal, Jeff Green, barely Daniel Tice, like 2B Daniel Tice. I like all of them. JaMychal's definitely my favorite just for the minutes and production upside that he's.
You seem like you're a lot higher on J-Mike than I am, and it's not because like I'm not on him. I'm just like I don't really know. That's kind of like why I'm hesitant. Can you talk me into that? Because I'm curious. Because again, if you think he's going to play 30 minutes at 3,200, we like that. Like, why do I not like it? I don't get it. What's wrong with me? Tell me what's wrong with me.
I got him at a 10, man. Like, this is a guy who, whether he was, on the Spurs G League team, their 13th man off the bench, whether he went to Memphis and was playing more of a key role in their rotation a few years ago. He's always been a guy that produces well from a fantasy standpoint. I think slightly under a fantasy point per minute on his career. And you can kind of see that playing out off the bench here, not getting a ton of time for this Denver team this year, but producing in the minutes that he does get. And I just think that, again, you're probably going to get Aaron Gordon at the 4. We don't, or at least I don't much think of him as a power forward anymore, but we know that's probably his most natural position. So I think you get Jeff Green at the 5, and then JaMychal's going to play both some 4 and some 5 all night. I just think 30 minutes. I think people will flock more to Jeff Green getting the start. He's also small forward eligible, which is nice. Like, I have Jeff Green at a 9. I just think that the upside is a little bit higher, in my opinion, for JaMychal Green, and the ownership to me is going to be way lower than the guys who do get the start.
My last Nuggets question, because I think this is important for lineup building purposes, especially people only playing one lineup. Like, are you prioritizing the punt forwards for the Nuggets, or are you prioritizing someone like Aaron Gordon?
I think it just kind of depends on what kind of lineup you're trying to build. If you want to get some of those guys that are 9K plus, certainly if you're trying to get up to, I think Steph's at like 11.7. We talked about Giannis being at 12.3 today, like he's Russell Westbrook playing by himself. Even Luka at 11.4, who has been letting both the Mavericks faithful and the DFS faithful down this season. He's kind of, who are we saying that, like, we were talking about Beast too, is going to have a game at some point. Luka's going to have a massive triple-double at some point. So, if you're trying to get up to those guys tonight, then you're clearly trying to prioritize the value front court pieces from Denver. But if you're going a little bit more balanced, that's where I like attacking Will Barton and to your point, Aaron Gordon. Let's see. So Jake's saying he doesn't get why people are on Jeff Green even at 35 minutes. His points per minute per year is like 0.66. I agree. That's part of the reason why I'm favoring J-Mike. And seems like Jake and I kind of in lockstep here, but I don't think you should not, if you're running multiple lineups, you should not ignore Jeff Green, because we know that he's, even going back to Hart condition, Jeff Green, right? Like, this guy has had big games throughout his career. And even off the bench, like, you remember him last year for Brooklyn, like, he would start producing at random times, it seemed like. And so with the elevated opportunity, like with those minutes, you definitely can't ignore him. But I already made my case as to why I would prefer JaMychal tonight to Jeff.
I know we talk about the Nuggets a lot. I'm going to throw one wild scenario with them, just so everyone's prepared, right? What if we get the spot Bol at the 5 start?
Yeah, this is almost like, it's similar, not the same, to how I feel about Paul Reed getting the starter coming off the bench. Like, Mike Malone does not like to play Bol. Like, he'll run out the ridiculous starting lineup in the preseason as a gimmick, but like Bol, like, and I love watching Bol. He's an entertaining player and a unique player, certainly physically, but he's not very good. Like, in the context of the NBA, he's not very good. So I don't think we're going to get a Bol start, but we'll see. We already talked about how we're going to need to wait on that Denver lineup. You have anything in mind where you want to go next?
It's not really like going to a single game, but I think two people who we haven't talked a lot about, we've kind of mentioned in passing, but for me, again, it's a 13-game slate where I think ownership is going to be spread out. Bobby Portis and Zach Levine remain both too cheap. I think it's just worth throwing out there. Zach Levine now at 7,600. He's been over 40 in almost like every single game. He's just underpriced. The matchup is fine. I like Zach Levine. Zach Levine's lowest scoring game is 26.5. His second lowest scoring game is 37. Then he has 37.25. Then every single other game is over 40 DK points, right? And like you said, right, the upper tiered players, DraftKings has increased their price, and that's why we keep kind of talking about those like these non stars and scrub lineups, right? These mid-range lineups, and it's because guys like Zach Levine and Malcolm Brogdon and Jared Allen, right? They didn't get their price up, so they're still decent value. And Bobby Portis 5.5, assuming he gets the start again, he'll probably be the highest owned player on this slate, right? Like, do you think Portis comes in at number 1? He's got to be up there. He's going to be in the top 3. But even at 5.5, I think it's just worth it's worth. He's just too productive.
Yeah, I mean it's good chalk. If he is even going to be chalk, I assume he's going to have some elevated ownership. Yeah, I mean when Brook Lopez was ruled out, like this guy's he's an instant 10 for me. I really don't care about the matchup. Bobby Portis getting 30 plus minutes. We've seen 35 and 31 in the last 2 games. Like he's too active of a player, too high usage to ignore, especially with that power forward eligibility tonight. So yeah, I would smash Bobby Portis into my lineups. And then talking about Zach Levine, like we're finally starting to see, and it's kind of interesting because the production between DeMar DeRozan and Zach Levine has not been as on the whole season so far. It hasn't been that different in terms of points per game, right? But DeMar's been hot lately. It's great to see him playing maybe some of the best basketball of his career right now early in the season. But for these guys to have almost flip-flopped their prices in a matter of 8 or 9 days, it's not that drastic of a production change for me. I love getting to Zach Levine at 7.6. It's ridiculous that he's priced so cheap tonight. I mean, he only had 17 shots last game against Brooklyn where they blew Brooklyn out.
Well, it wasn't actually a blowout, just to defend my Nets. They blew them out the last 3 minutes. But the Nets give up. I forgot
who I was on with.
One thing about the Nets, they drive me crazy. Steve Nash gives up like down 10 with 4 minutes left. He just throws in the towel. I'm like, we're probably going to lose this game, but it feels a little early. But that's what happened kind of this game.
But yeah, I mean, against Philly, that little home and home that the Bulls had with Philly, lost both games, but 26 and 24 shots for Zach Levine. So at 7.6, it's really hard for me to pass that up. And just because there's so many options, he got a 9, but he's one of the guys that's kind of leaning on the edge of a 10 on DraftKings. I would say he, Cade Cunningham, Daniel Tice, and Malcolm Brogdon can't get to a 10 for me. So those 3 guys are very much, I would say 9.5 for me. And I see discussion still going in the Discord talking about the Denver front court. I think Jake came in late, so just to rehash, I think my original thinking was I don't see how they don't start JaMychal. But thinking about how Aaron Gordon can play the 4 and probably, in my opinion, will, they need somebody else other than Bol to come off the bench to back up the front court. So I really do think that JaMychal, or maybe Jeff, one of the Greens is going to come off the bench here.
Yeah, I don't think both are going to start personally. Yeah. I also think Mike Malone's going to do some weird shit. Excuse my language, but I know that's why I mentioned Bones. But like, I think he's going to do some weird things. Like this is going to be like NBA coaches, and like we always like are surprised that they do crazy things when like their best player isn't playing. I think we're going to see some weird things here. I get the Mike love, like everything projects well, especially if he starts, right? That changes everything. But like he's probably going to play 30 minutes, and at 3,200 makes for great value, even if he's not a fantasy point per minute. It's tough to not beat that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm kind of hedging right here, but like I see the kind of the very cordial. I applaud both of you, both Adam Young and Jake. This is actually like really good discourse. But I'm kind of like I'm in the middle between both of you guys. I'm slightly leaning towards Adam's side, where like even if Mike plays 30 minutes, I think there's a scenario where Mike plays 34 minutes and has like 18 DraftKings points. Like that wouldn't shock me. But I mean, we'll see.
And also to answer Triple H, this is something I need to start incorporating more. I need to set 10 minutes aside at least to go through the FanDuel prices and be more familiar with them. But especially when I'm doing ranks for 26 teams on 2 sites. Today was not the day to start that practice. So, Steph, $8K for Levine on FanDuel. Is it kind of similar logic there, or are the prices so different where he's really not that much of a priority?
So I unfortunately am not the best person to ask for FanDuel advice as well. I will say 8K for Levine on FanDuel actually would not be a priority for me. Levine's score, like the way Levine's production, right, benefits DraftKings scoring much more than FanDuel scoring.
True.
So I don't view 8K as a significant value for Zach Levine, where I view 7,600 on DraftKings as a very, very strong value for Zach Levine.
Yeah, I mean, just flipping through this quickly for Triple H and anybody else on FanDuel, like I would much rather play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for 7.6. Who else is down here? Garland not bad, 6'5". Dinwiddie not bad, 6'2". Josh Giddey at 6 is nice. I mean, Will Barton at 6 flat. You gotta love that, right? So Ricky Rubio 5'5". There's just so many, especially with this multi-position eligibility here now. A ton of options. Yeah, he wouldn't on that short glance. Strip Wage would not be a priority for me either. The ranks, the ranks 95% of the time are in the order I would play them as well. But feel free to fire questions at me, especially for guys that are ranked the same. Because I know with 26 teams, there's a lot of 8s, a lot of 7s out there tonight, and I know everybody's gonna have to dip into those plays some. So let's stick with the Milwaukee and the New York Knicks game because we were talking about Bobby Portis. I also have a lot of love still for Drew Holiday at 6'5". We've seen 30 and 31 minutes over the last two.
Yep.
We would obviously prefer him to get into the mid 30s. But even at 30 minutes at 6'5", I think he's going to be under-owned. And if I was running 20 lineups, I would have some exposure to Drew Holiday. I think he's a really strong play. Shots not falling right now, but like you look at his game last night, went 4 for 14. Let's say he shoots 7 for 14. He's putting up close to 40, if not exceeding 40 DK points. Had 8.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 stocks. And those stocks are not a mirage. Maybe he's not picking up 4. But Drew Holiday, a very active player.
Oh, yeah, that's not abnormal for him 2-2.
No, not at all. And then you look at the Knicks side. We talked about Nerlens Noel taking a seat. So how do you feel about Mitchell Robinson at 4-3? Like I think that's a really strong play now.
Yeah, the issue with Mitch, honestly, is that he's a center, as it is usually every single slate that there's 13 games. There's like 10 centers you want to play, I worry Taj Gibson plays his like 20 minutes, right? And then we don't see 30 from Mitch. But even in like 22 to 25 minutes, Mitch can definitely have a ceiling at 4,300. And if he plays 30 plus minutes, again, I don't think he's going to, but if he does play 30 plus minutes, he'll smash that price tag. There's no doubt about that. I do agree with you about Drew Holiday. The other thing I think it's important to note about Drew is 30, 31 last 2 games. That usually means he's probably done with his minutes limit, right? He'll probably be like 35 now, 34 to 36, something like that. So I wouldn't have any minutes concerns for Drew. And at full minutes, Drew Holiday at 6,500, no matter what the matchup is, and it's not a great one, but it doesn't matter. It's too cheap. He's not a must for me because I'm prioritizing guys like Cade and Ricky Rubio if I'm playing one lineup over Drew. But certainly someone, if I'm playing multiple lineups, I would like to be over the field on. Guards loaded, right? You got Ricky, you've got Cade. Yeah. In the 6K range, you have Drew Holiday. In the 7K range, you have Brogdon, Levine. You have Will Barton in the 6K range. There's a lot of really strong guard plays. But yeah, I don't have much interest in these spend ups in this game, though. I just want to make that clear. Like Giannis on a 13-game slate, he's going to be under-owned, so that's the appeal for Giannis. Where if this game should be competitive, and Giannis is always capable of putting up 70. But at his current price tag on a 13-game slate, 70 probably doesn't kill you. So it's tough to justify Giannis, in my opinion. Julius Randle, again, like at 10-3, I'm just on a 13-game slate isn't something I'm in love with. So really, in my opinion, it's Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis, and then if you want to sprinkle some Mitchell Robinson, those are the 3 players that would be in my player pool if I'm playing a 20 max. I mean, if I'm playing 150, I'd want some Giannis exposure. I'd probably want a little Julius Randle exposure, but yeah, that's sort of what my thinking is on this matchup.
Well, let's talk, and I guess before I want to jump to the Heat. Because we got a couple questions about Jimmy Butler. That's one of the 2 late night hammer games, Heat at Lakers, but some lineups coming in and some other news. Dylan Brooks, game time decision will come off the bench if he plays Wednesday. Dylan Brooks returning to my juggernaut of a season-long lineup. So we love to see that. The Nets will start Harden, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, and Blake Griffin. The Thunder will start SGA, Luguentz Dort, Josh Giddey, Darius Bazley, and Derek Favors getting the start in Dagonaut's roulette of centers. And the Magic will start Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, and the 2 big men, Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba.
Jumping to 15 seconds. If I'm playing one lineup, he's not going to be in that one lineup, but I would want some Cole Anthony exposure. He is the best ball darling right now. He's really producing well. He's arguably underpriced at 7.7K. the Nets have been playing pretty decent defense, and it's not like the greatest game environment, but he has been an incredible fantasy producer to start this year. You're talking about someone who has legit 50-plus DK point upside at under 8K. Again, not a must by any means, but just wanted to give Cole Anthony a shout-out for playing some really productive basketball to open up the season, and for my best ball teams as one of my highest-owned guys. Shout out Cole Anthony, shout out me and my drafting ability.
Yeah, it's nothing like waking up to a text from Stefano just bragging about how much his best ball teams are exceeding mine right now. But it's early. I need Zion to come back. Yes. Patrick Williams getting injured hurt me a little bit, but jumping back in here, Heat at Lakers. Well, and I guess I should say too. I shouldn't just gloss over Orlando like that, because Cole Anthony for me, Steph, it's tough to get there at his price at 7-7 on this slate. Especially in a matchup where, you would think that your Nets will take care of these guys pretty handily. I would still prefer, even more so now, at a 3.3K discount, Jalen Suggs. He's going to have a good game at some point, man. His rates are so much better than what his production has shown thus far. So Jalen Suggs would be my favorite choice from that Orlando team. But talking Jimmy Butler, he's up to 9.6 now. All these studs kind of getting a price increase on this large slate. Obviously thoughts about Jimmy Butler's contributions to the Denver and Miami antics the other night aside, what's your interest level in Jimmy?
A lot. I have a lot of interest in Miami. This Lakers team without LeBron play very fast and are not great defensively. They're kind of like a totally different team. The tempo of this game shifts. Russell Westbrook really, really pushes tempo. So this is actually a really good game environment for Miami. I like kind of all Miami Heat players. I don't think Butler's my favorite. I think Bam would be my favorite. My second favorite, honestly, might be Duncan Robinson at 3,700 on DK, where I think he might see a slight minutes uptick. Even though like him and Markieff Morris don't play the same position, they do similar things on offense, right? And that is space the floor. They're going to need that floor spacer. So I think Duncan Robinson might see more minutes, a slight minutes uptick. And if PJ Tucker is out, Duncan Robinson will definitely see a minutes uptick because they need those floor spacers to operate their offense. So I kind of really like Duncan Robinson as someone who's going to be like 1% owned as just a punt. If I'm playing multiple lineups, just have some, like you can have 4% and probably be like over the field, like 4x over the field on Duncan Robinson today. And I think he's worth mentioning because on DraftKings only, because he very much benefits from DraftKings scoring. There's an opportunity for him to play 30-plus minutes and hit 5 threes. And that
should get you there.
That works.
Yeah. I made the exact same case on Monday about Duncan Robinson going up against the Nuggets. All you have to do is look back 3 games. This is the ceiling for his attempts, right? But 17 threes, and all he does is take threes. In the last 3 games, he's taken 30 shots, all 30 from 3. So yeah, I'm with you there. I think he's a sneaky value, and on that late slate would be a priority value for me. Maybe my favorite out of those 4 teams.
I think Bam 7,900 Bam is kind of cheap too. I think for this specific matchup. Again, center is so loaded, so he's not a priority, and I'd rather play Jared Allen at 7,500 if I'm playing one lineup. But again, if you're playing multiple lineups, I want some Bam exposure. I know this happened once already, but it wasn't like phenomenal. But I'm ready to slam Dwayne Dedmon I'm ready to slam chalk Dwayne Dedmon on a Bam late scratch night because the man is so efficient and is a very good fantasy producer.
Yep.
I just wanted to say that out loud.
To be honest, has never really looked like, to me at least, like he belongs on a basketball court. He looks like an old dude, like he always has. And Dwayne Dedmon, former Spurs. So I love my former Spurs. Kyle Murray chiming in.
Has not been a free throw, by the way.
Dwayne?
Yeah.
Nice. And can step out and shoot it from beyond the arc as well. Kyle Murray chiming in saying, did something change for Rubio or Cade that I missed because I said Cade is my preferred play of the 2 now? No, just I thought the minute ceiling was a little bit higher for Rubio with him starting. Still a great play, still a 9. Ranked the same as Cade, but I lean Cade. I think he's got a higher upside if his shot is falling in this matchup. Triple H asking, is Drew back to full strength mean that Grayson is off our list? Grayson Allen is not off my list, but I want to jump off this little heater he's on. Like, I want to jump off the train before it crashes. Shooting the absolute piss out of the ball the last 5 games. And the production has come with it, especially the last 3, exceeding 32.25 DraftKings points in each of the last 3 games. Got off to a bit of a slow start last night, but ended up with 25 real points. That's just what I worry about. One cold shooting night, the peripherals are not strong with this guy. And so, especially on a slate like this, Grayson Allen, not a priority for me. How do you feel about the Dookie?
Yeah, no. That's it.
Yep. I know some questions are piling up here. So,
Barton or I don't know if you wanted more from me on that one, but
no, all good. Barton or Drew for you? He's already got Dozier and JaMychal.
I'd still probably go Barton. It's close, but I'd probably still go Barton.
I would also lean Barton, but I think you're getting to the point there with 2 Nuggets, where it's not a crazy pivot. And you know what I say in those cases, like if you have the rest of the lineup that you like, run them both if you can. 2v2 here, single entry, DeJounte Murray and Bam, or Jimmy Butler and Malcolm Brogdon. That's a good one. I think.
I'm leaning. That's close, but I'm leaning second.
I think I would also lean second because I like Brogdon so much. Jimmy's bringing similar upside to, I would say the same upside to DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's bit like when he's getting 36 minutes as he has in the games that stay close, like he's putting up 50 fantasy points very consistently. And really, I promise I'm trying to take my homer hat off for that take. Like I know there's a bit of sticker shock at 9-7. But it's enough. Like, to be honest, I would take DeJounte Murray over Jimmy Butler tonight if it was a 1v1, only having to pay 100 more. Next question coming in from Tyreek. Good to see you, buddy. Eubanks or Gafford as the last man in on DK? To me, it's Gafford. It's not super close, just because Drew Eubanks' minutes ceiling is so much lower. I would be surprised if he plays more than 26. And I think Daniel Gafford in the right matchup or in the right game script, particularly Trez Harrell getting some fouls, would play 30 plus.
I would also say if it has to be center, I wouldn't mind talks. Like you're in the range there where like you have to pick one of those guys. I think I'd probably go Mitchell Robinson at 4,300.
I also agree, and I also think JaVale McGee not crazy, and Precious Achiuwa not crazy. It's kind of a stacked low 4K range there. At center, or I should say 4K range, because Gafford and Eubanks 4.6 and 4.7. More Stanley dribbling of basketball gifts. Love The Office. 2v2 here. J-Val and Edwards, Anthony Edwards, that is, or Steph Curry and Aaron Gordon. I think I lean the second one, pending the Denver starting lineup. But if Denver starts how I expect them to, it is the second one for me.
I prefer the non-J-Val one, but I want to mention J-Val as someone I really, really like today. And I'm struggling because I don't know if I have an individual 2v2 that I'm struggling with that involves J-Val, where it's like Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine or J-Val and J-Mike. And I am in between both of them right now. And by the way, this is such a good note. The advanced EVP tool is like fully operational right now, and there's enough data to start kind of using it where it's like it's useful information. Again, data is going to change because it's still very early in the season, but it's starting to be like usable, right? So while DraftKings says the matchup for J-Val is like the 4th worst, advanced EVP says they rank 26, I think, or 27th for skilled centers. And Brandon Ingram is ruled out. This is actually a good matchup for J-Val. 9,100 feels like an expensive price tag. He's got a legit ceiling. That's all I can say, right? He's playing high. He's playing mid-30s in minutes. Whenever we see J-Val mid-30s in minutes, we like that, even at 9K. So I in terms of like a spend-up center, he's one of my favorites. But I would still lean that non-J-Val 2v2, but I just wanted to talk about my J-Val love tonight.
Yeah, I love it. Chris Ferris asking Brogdon and Butler or Drew and Tatum, DK single entry. It's very close for me. I'm going to side Drew and Tatum because I love Tatum's upside in this game with no Jaylen Brown, but it's very close. You differ on that at all?
I'm going to go Brogdon Butler because I do like Butler game environment. I'm really high on Brogdon just because I think no one's going to play him, and I might be wrong on that. This is on me for being a bad analyst right here. I haven't gone through the full deep dive on every site and seen what people are looking at. So I don't have a good sense if Brogdon's being talked about, but I can't imagine he's someone people are prioritizing on a 13-game slate in his first game back.
Yeah, especially coming off illness.
Yeah, he should be like 8,400 probably, and at 7,500 against a depleted team that should play faster. I like Brogdon a lot. Like he had like 20 plus assist opportunities. He had 22 assist opportunities the first game of the season, but he's been like over 15 assist opportunities almost like every single game. Mm-hmm. It just his role in this new offense is really, really good, and I don't think people have noticed that yet. So very, very high on Brogdon.
Good question here from Doug Dubs. Good to see Doug Dubs in the chat. How many Nuggets are too many for you? I think for me, 4 is pushing it, but not crazy. 5, I think, is right out. But I think that the magic number for me tonight is 2 or 3.
I think starting lineup really makes it change my answer from 4 or 3, but it's 4 right now is fine. I wouldn't go 5. I probably wouldn't go 5 no matter what. If they start both greens, I'd probably say 3. I actually prefer if they get really weird and like Bone starts, then it's probably like 4. But yeah, it's somewhere there.
Another 3v3, and this is on FanDuel. John Morant, Jason Tatum. I see John here twice. DFS Dan, hit me with that again, because it says Ja, Tatum, Morant, or Mitch, Durant, and Curry. Maybe missing a JA. Who's a JA? Initials. I feel like I'm missing something obvious here.
It's not J. Michael because it's J. I don't think that.
It might be. It's got to be a cheap. Based on the other side of that.
It's not JaVale because no one says JaVale is Ja.
Anyways, hopefully Dan, get back to us if you can, Dan. Next question, T-Nib, Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis okay in the same lineup on DraftKings? I think it's fine. I'm not targeting Allen with any sort of priority tonight. Yeah. Bobby Portis would be in a ton of my lineups if I was playing. How many Spurs is too many? Shut up, Anthony. More than one Spur is too many tonight. I will say, though, Thad Young is 2x on Super Draft still. That's very interesting to me in those Super Draft tournaments. Oh, Jarrett Allen. Appreciate the follow-up there, Dan. So it was – let me scroll back up. It was Jarrett Allen, Tatum, and Ja Morant, or Mitch Rob, Durant, and Curry. It's very much the first one. Yeah. Not even close. Now I'm curious after lock. I want to go look at those prices because somebody's too cheap. Probably multiple guys too cheap there. Tyreek chiming in, getting a ton of Pels guards and forwards. So Pels in general. Thoughts on the Pelicans? We can talk Pels real quick. You kind of already gave your thoughts on Jonas Valanciunas. I second that. The price is up at 9-1, but 30-plus minutes from Jonas Valanciunas, he can absolutely smash, especially against this OKC front court. Like, you're going to get 18 to 22 minutes of Derek Favors against Jonas, but Favors doesn't play much more than that. So he's still going to win that Favors matchup. And any other time, if it's Muscala, Robinson Earl, or anybody else that they try to guard Valanciunas with, he should be really good. I mean, and with Ingram out, Devontae Graham and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, both solid plays. I like Josh Hart a lot at 5'2" still. He would probably be my favorite Pelican to play right now, Josh Hart, that is. And, if Herb Jones gets back in there, I think I need to lower his rank a little bit. I think I had him at an 8, and with Garrett Temple now back, I think those guys kind of pull minutes away from each other. So some edits coming for Herb.
I would say if Herb is out, I don't mind Garrett Temple at 3,400. Like we've seen Temple produce historically. It's not sexy. You don't feel great about it, but like he can get there. He just went 10x too, right? So I that makes sense. I get why Tyreek's getting that. The other person, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, his production is down from how it started this season, but we know he has a ceiling, right? And he's going to play a lot of minutes at sub 6K in sort of a crappy game, right? These are two bad teams. That's usually good for DFS. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker after Joe Val is my favorite Pelican but it's close between Josh Hart and Garrett Temple if Herb Jones is out.
Sure. Let's see. Smart or Rubio and DK? Very much Rubio for me.
I missed that. Say that again.
Smart or Rubio on DraftKings?
It's Rubio still.
Funny thing about Marcus Smart, outside of the obvious hilarity of his statements after that game where he said he needed the ball more, he also had 0 assists in that game. So, just another knock to Marcus Smart, I guess. I'm not a huge fan. I've watched that guy since high school. Plays hard. He's okay. Josh Hart or Aaron Gordon? That's an interesting one. Like, if you're going,
I would say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're off to a bad start, you should 100,000,000% pivot to Josh Hart.
Sure.
If you're going really well, it doesn't I would probably stick with Aaron Gordon. But if you all right, I need to make up ground, you should 1,000,000% make that pivot. I think that's how I would answer it, right? And then if you're even, I think I prefer Aaron Gordon with a gun to my head. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. No other questions, and we're about 25 seconds from lock. So I'll try to type any answers that I can to late questions into the chat. But man, 13 games. Exhausting day. We're not done yet. We've still got 3 hours until the final game lock. So we will, of course, have FTN people in the chat leading up all the way to those last 2 games going off at 10 p.m. Eastern.
We're here till 10 p.m. I thought we're going all out.
I have to crack open a beer, get some of the live streams going, invite some more buddies on.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we didn't talk about, there's 2 things actually I want to talk about. It's Charlotte, Memphis, between Ja and LaMelo Ball with their price increases, more so LaMelo, and if you think that is overpriced for LaMelo Ball. And the other one is do you want what are your thoughts on one of the Lakers? For me, it's even though I don't really care about matchups too much, I'm okay with Russ at 11-3, guy 3% owned, right? No one's gonna play Russ. Right?
Yep. Even though it's a tough matchup for both, obviously. At least on paper, I would prefer Anthony Davis. Obviously, both guys benefited from that overtime against Charlotte on Monday night. But I trust Anthony Davis much more production-wise, certainly not health-wise. But yeah, Russ at 11-3 at that point, I'm just going to get to Luka for 100 more. Or down to Anthony Davis at 11-1. And to answer your question about LaMelo and Ja, they're both overpriced. I think I would still prefer LaMelo. More people will probably flock to Ja. And with Dylan Brooks back, if Dylan Brooks plays, Ja Morant is a 7-8 player. Dylan Brooks takes massive amounts of usage away from him. So yeah, I wouldn't touch Ja tonight. And to be honest, I need to make sure that I think I gave him an 8. No, I gave him a 7. Perfect. That is how I feel.
Good job.
One last question here before we get to some ownership and depart for the evening, at least from the stream. Aaron Gordon or Bobby Portis, single entry. I'm going Bobby Portis.
Yep.
I think I'll go Bobby Portis, and then I'm going to play J. Mike at my forward spot, and I'm going to play Jarrett Allen, who hopefully you already had in your center spot, and, figure it out for utility. Let's pull up some ownership here. 2 games going off of the 13 here at Slate Lock.
There's Cavs. What's the second? Oh, Magic Heat. Not Magic Heat.
Magic Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Back to $15 on DraftKings today. I don't know if you saw it was a $10 main GPP yesterday. They're still keeping the amazing promo of 2x crowns in this main tournament. So I'm jealous. I'm very jealous of everybody's 2x crowns. I've been bragging on my computer's ability to open the CSV files quickly, taking a bit longer today, but we are here now.
That's what it is.
Steph, you got any guesses on who is the highest owned player here from the first 2?
It's got to be Rubio, right?
It is Ricky Rubio.
I don't know how owned is this? I feel like I'm going to say 37%. I think people went down after the news.
Not quite, 45.
So people didn't care. That's high for 13 games.
I very much agree. I would be happy to be under on that. I certainly would not want to full fade Rubio, even coming off the bench. We talked about it on the stream, but 45 on a 13-game slate for anybody. Like, I think I'd only want to see 45% on a guy like Andre Drummond at 4-4 on a slate like this, right? Like, it's just 13 games. It's almost getting to the I don't know. I'm trying to make some ridiculous comparison between NBA and NFL, and that's not there.
The 250 and see what he got there, because if he's 45 on the main, he's got to be like 70, right? And then 250.
It's certainly going to be higher, I would think. But yeah, go ahead and pull that up. Second here, Steph, was Jarrett Allen, who was at 28%. And I would want
that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I would want to be at least double that. I profess my love for Jarrett Allen. Tyrese Halliburton is ruled out alongside Terrence Davis. So some updates coming for the Kings rankings, and we can discuss for 90 seconds before we get out of here. The Knicks will start Kemba, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitch Robinson. So no surprises from the Knicks.
Rubio,
Darius Garland,
52% in the 250. So he didn't really
not too much higher.
Yeah, that's surprising.
What was Jarrett Allen at?
He's at 34.5, so he went up to that was a bit more of a size. That makes sense though. But
it's still too low for me. Like I mean, the guy, if he's going to play 35 minutes, he projects well into the 40s for me, with obvious upside for 55, 60. If he's going to get 40 minutes. So at 7.5, yeah. Don't need to rehash that. Evan Mobley, 13%. Kevin Durant, 8%. Cole Anthony held 7%. Everybody else sub 3.5. I mean, man, I would not have played any James Harden, but if you did roster some James Harden, you got to like him at 1.8%. That's pretty nice. Anything else here? Daniel Gafford at sub 1%. I like a lot. Obviously he's one of those guys that if you're playing 20 max and you played one Daniel Gafford, congratulations, you're 5x the field. Like getting to a little bit of Daniel Gafford tonight. Anybody play themselves outrageously? Not really that I can see. Well, Steph, it was a pleasure, man. Always fun to chop it up with you, especially on a 13 gamer, man, really throwing you off the couch and into the fire.
One thing I wanted to say before you boot me back to the couch, Davion Mitchell stock up right now. This is interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And shoot, man, maybe. So I was gonna do a pod tomorrow, talking a little bit about stock up, stock down, kind of a cliche segment, but I think something that's worth talking about and discussing. Maybe if you got 30 minutes, you hop on with us and talk some Davion Mitchell and some of these other guys.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see if the schedule opens up. Let me know what time. I contact my agent, please.
Oh yeah, I will. I will reach out to your people. Pistons starting Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, and Isaiah Stewart. So no surprises there. Yeah, that'll do it for us. Anthony asking if we covered the Golden State Minnesota game. We didn't touch on that too much, but I'll jump into the Discord to talk about that. Anthony, if you're still listening, for me it's really Steph. If you want to pay for him, I don't have any other priorities on the Golden State side. I think Karl Anthony Towns is one of my favorite spend ups at 10-7 tonight. Also think D'Angelo Russell, a strong GPP play at 7-1. Anthony Edwards, obviously, continuing to produce with a high floor at 8K. And that's about it for me from that game. No value pieces I'm prioritizing. You kind of on the same page there?
Yeah, for sure. Zach, I'm curious your take here too, because I'm still processing kind of that Kings news, because that's actually a significant amount of minutes kind of opened up and usage with that second unit with no Terrence Davis, who actually played a decent role in that first game without Tyrese Halliburton. What's your thoughts on Buddy Hield against your Spurs? Is he too expensive, or do you like 6,300 for Buddy Hield doesn't feel great, but he is going to come in very, very low owned with the opportunity to play high 30s in minutes with a significant role. Barnes also kind of gets a bump from this. Obviously, Davion Mitchell gets a bump.
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox, I'm still not ready to go there because I do think Davion Mitchell is really hurting his kind of production, but the price has come down a little bit to 8,200. And
well, we're confirmed. We're confirmed that Buddy will start now. Just timely news coming in there. Yeah, Steph. I mean, at 6'3", I think he's a really strong play. He's going to get a significant bump in the rankings. I would also point out that De'Aaron Fox performed much better without Tyrese Halliburton last game.
There was one. I actually watched that game in full because I was hoping I was going to take down a couple of tournaments, and then it just went crashing down when the chalk Lakers Hornets game went to OT. But what essentially happened in that game is they were like down 28, and then De'Aaron Fox came in with 3 third stringers and kind of brought them back. But he was doing nothing prior to that fourth quarter. So I don't know if I'm ready to say he's back, right? But maybe that could have been his moment. I don't know.
Well, the thing for me that keeps him from being a priority still is the fact he's going up against DeJounte Murray, who is, taking – I'll leave my homer hat on just because it's facts. This guy was an all-defensive player in his second year in the league. It's not a good matchup at the position for De'Aaron Fox, having to deal with him. And then Derek White, who was, I think, the first guy left off the second team all-defense in his second year.
You know this better than everyone, but how do I don't know this off the top of my head. I can look it up, but I don't think we have the time for that. Do the Spurs switch everything, or does Deontay and Derek, do they fight through most screens? Because are they when we talk about a one-on-one matchup, if they're a team that just switches everything, I don't know how much I care about that. But if someone like Davion Mitchell, for example, who's actually becoming someone who is a bit of a problem to target in DFS because he doesn't switch. He just fights through every screen, and you're kind of stuck with him guarding him one-on-one, with him guarding him one-on-one. Is that the same with Deontay, or is it not to that extent?
I think mostly you're going to see the switches coming on-ball screens rather than off-ball screens, which with De'Aaron Fox is more, that's more of his game or what they're trying to open up for him. But like I said, I'm not super excited if you're getting switched on to or if somebody like a Keldon or a Devin Vassell. Thad Young is not going to be a great matchup getting switched on to you on the perimeter either. And I talked about Derek White. So it's kind of that's the thing about the Spurs team, man. They're not going to win a ton of games, whether it's by design or if they're trying. But the defense, this team is fucking stingy, man. I don't think it's a team that anybody's going in there, at least at this point in the season, with everybody active. Teams aren't coming in oh yeah, this is going to be an easy one tonight. These bastards are going to fight until the end, as Popovich coach teams do. So I think I'm going to prioritize Buddy Hield over De'Aaron Fox. But I think still fine plays, and especially I'm sure there's some sort of turbo slate offered. I would love to roster both of those guys and Davion Mitchell, obviously at 4-6, a fine play as well.
Shout out Joe Metz for having a boomer moment in Discord, not being able to post a video. Come on, Joe.
I'll hit you guys with it. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I know Steph does as well, and everybody here at FTN. But that'll do it for us. Back tomorrow, 3-game slate. Eddie will be here, and then I don't know which day. Nothing confirmed, but we know we have the Wild Eddie Fear animation for whenever he wants to crash. I would say there's a strong chance that he's going to crash at least one show between tomorrow's show and next Wednesday's. So stay tuned for that. And that'll do it for us. For Steph, for Zach, for Thomas, our producer extraordinaire, behind the glass, as always.
Let's get these beans.
Good night.